What's going on, guys? Second and Short is back. My name is Tyler Lauder. He is Aaron Ben, and it is time for our Monday's Movers. Today, we're going to be breaking down all the teams, positional groups, players that we think are moving up in the ranks of our fake imaginary big leaderboard ranking thing, whatever.
Yeah, where the points don't matter and nothing means anything.
Yeah. What is that from? Is that from? Oh, whose line is it anyways?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact line.
I almost said Price is Right, but there the points do matter, or the whatever.
Close.
We are also going to be breaking down all those teams that kind of sucked it up.
Just kind of flopped around.
But you know what, Aaron? Let's start with the positives. That's what we're going to do here. Every week, every Monday, we're going to break down the most positive things first. We'll talk about the negative things after that, and then we're going to break down our predictions for Monday Night Football. So if you listen to this before Monday Night Football, it'll be very relevant. If not, oh well.
Then just shut up.
All right, so who are we going to talk about first here, Aaron?
First off is a team that kind of is surprising me so far this season, and it's a team, the Los Angeles Rams. Last season, they had kind of the post-Super Bowl slump after losing the Super Bowl. Didn't even make the playoffs. Jared Goff kind of looked like he'd regressed. But this season, they're 2-0, beat the Cowboys in a one-score game last week. And then yesterday, they just absolutely thrashed the Eagles. I mean, 37-19. Jared Goff threw for 267 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions. 142.1 passer rating. They rushed for 191 yards as a team. I mean, they were just on fire the whole game.
Yeah, and it really didn't matter whoever's at running back doesn't matter as much. It is important to note that Cam Akers was knocked out of that game. But I mean, we saw in week 1, Malcolm Brown dominated on the ground, and then Darrell Henderson dominated this week. And I think teams, this is the exact reason why like the running back by committee was created, because if teams can't game plan for one specific running back, like it makes it harder to just like try and stop the run.
Yeah, and I mean, if you don't have a back, like there's very few backs that can stay in all three downs. We're talking about Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey and everything. But some running backs are like more one-dimensional. You got your speed guys, you got your pass protection guys, so you got to kind of mix it up. And so I think most teams that's what they're doing. It's a running back by committee type of deal.
Yeah, and it is big to note that Tyler Higbee had a huge week this week. He had 3 receiving touchdowns. And I think that's a lot of people have been talking about for a while is like once Cooks was gone, it was like, well, who's their third guy? Because we assume in the NFL that you have to have 3 guys deep, otherwise you're in trouble. And obviously with Kupp and Woods there, they're set in stone. But I mean, yeah, Tyler Higbee came on strong late last season, and he's shown to be a reliable option for Jared Goff. It is, and it will always be, in my opinion, a quarterback's best friend is a reliable receiving tight end. It is their best friend. Or Christian McCaffrey, if you have a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a guy who can reliably be open, like in the short, like as a third option or out in the flat, that's always great. But I mean, it wasn't just offense that was killing here. The Rams defense just beat up on the Eagles. They intercepted Carson Wentz twice. They didn't sack him at all, but they held him to a 5.6 yards per attempt. They got run on a bit, but they also managed to force a fumble on Miles Sanders. I mean, the Eagles look helpless, to be honest.
Yeah, and the biggest thing here that we have to talk about for the Rams and why we're going to keep complimenting them is that they are 5th right now in the league in yards per game at 435. They are just putting down. I mean, when you put that many yards up every week, essentially you're going to have the ball longer, time of possessions longer. The longer you have the ball, the less your opponent does, better chance you win the game. And so I think them being able to successfully continue to put together longer drives is what's also benefiting them, because it puts them, even if you can't convert, around the 40-yard line, you're putting the other team in bad territory to start the ball after punting. And then you're going to get the ball back in good territory. So that's something that's really positive from them there. As far as like points per game, they're sitting around the mid-tier right now. That's just because we've been seeing a lot of teams like the Packers drop. They've already scored 80 points so far. But right now, this division is, I'm happy about this. We've been seeing a lot of things all summer. And it's not that we've been wrong. We've just been jinxing a lot of things. But this division is the best division in football right now.
I agree. It's hard to argue differently, to be honest.
Alrighty, now let's switch it up a little bit. We're not going to talk about just a team specific, but let's talk about an offense that is just firing on all cylinders. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. As I just mentioned, they are leading the league in offense. They're averaging over 500 yards per game, over 42 points per game. And it's not just passing. Like, they're just under 300 yards passing game, but they're averaging over 208 yards rushing per game. That's insane to have that statistic. Like, that's like Baltimore Ravens territory, except for the passing is like an extra 80 yards higher than it would have been for the Ravens last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this team a couple of years ago, you'd be like, wow, Rodgers must be having a hell of a year. And I mean, he's looked good, and he hasn't made many mistakes. He has some pretty nice, like, he's been throwing darts and lasers and bullets and stuff. But what's really been impressive to me is, like you said, the running game. They're also first in the league in yards per carry at 6.2, which is an entire half yard more than the Browns, who are in second place. So that kind of tells you it kind of tells you more of the story. Like, you can see it's not only the running backs, the offensive line is getting space. They're making blocks. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Devontae Adams, loved what he did week 1, went out injured early this week. We'll see if he'll be able to come back, and we'll see what's up with him.
Yeah, and so far as well, the best part about this team is the health. Protecting Aaron Rodgers is very important. And if I'm saying this correctly, 3 of his offensive linemen in Wagner, Patrick, and Jenkins have played every snap so far through the first 2 games. And that is very important. The fact that you can have guys that are constantly protecting for you, that are reliable, and they're there every play. That is, you don't see that in the NFL. And I think right now, them being up 2 division games right away just gives them such a huge edge going into the rest of the season. They do have a tough slate of games coming up where they play 3 NFC South teams in a row. And I'm not going to say those teams are way better on defense, but they're not the depleted, Vikings that we've been talking about and the poor, Detroit Lions. Big ups from this Green Bay Packers team. They played lights out. One player that we need to highlight, I know you kind of did on the yards per carry. Let's just talk about Aaron Jones. Everybody said this guy was oh man, they drafted AJ Dillon. They still have Jamal Williams. Like, he's in a contract year. He's probably not going to be able to do as well as he did last year. And this guy's balling out.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing amazing. He's great on the ground. He had 168 yards this game, 9.3 yards per carry. He had a 75-yard banger out there. But he's also great catching the ball. He led the team in receptions, had 4 receptions, 68 yards, had another touchdown receiving. I mean, he does it all pretty much.
Yeah, so far on the season, he has 34 carries and 8 receptions. Good for 42 touches. And that total for yards puts him just over 300 yards through 2 games with 4 total touchdowns. Like, this guy is just, why not commit to him long term? We're going to keep seeing if this can stay as the season goes on. But as it stands right now, he's on pace to easily get another 1,000-yard season. And what also I like from this Packers team, since we got about another minute here on the Packers, is how everybody was dogging on them for not drafting any receivers and not focusing on giving Aaron Rodgers, reliable pass catchers. And while people weren't wrong, it obviously doesn't matter because what do we always say? The Packers, they built to the draft. They know what they got. Valdez-Scantling and Lazard, guys that they've had in their system for a couple of years, are on the up and up. And Aaron Rodgers likes his guys.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers really does like guys. And great quarterbacks manage to make average receivers look good. And that's what Peyton Manning did back in the day. That's what Tom Brady did. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is showing he's been doing these last couple of weeks.
Now, let's talk about another quarterback here as we transition that literally has been balling out in the first 2 weeks. And that is going to be quarterback Cam Newton. Now, yes, last night, tough game. They get the loss. I'm not. You and I were talking about this. We kind of strike that up, that last play, to bad play calling. Like, I mean, you pretty much said everybody and their mother knew Cam Newton was going to run that ball. That'd have been a great time for, just something else to get that last score. I mean, really, just a little play action. I don't know, anything, something else. But I think a throw would have been the best option there, which is really funny because 5 years ago we said that if the Seahawks would have just ran the ball, it would have been better against the Patriots.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. I think a lot of people are thinking that, and maybe it's in the back of Belichick's mind, and maybe that's why he called that play.
But I mean, let's be honest. Cam Newton had 2 rushing touchdowns in similar situations earlier in the game. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. So I understand the whole point of let your guy do his thing. But let's go ahead, Aaron. This is kind of your pick. I want you to kind of dive in this. Let's talk about Cam Newton and how well he's adjusted to playing for these Patriots.
Well, it's kind of a tale of 2 games because week 1 passed for just over 150 yards, did most of his work on the ground, and kind of looked like a Cam Newton of previous years where he was just running like he thought he was a fullback. But then last night, passed for almost 400 yards, threw for a touchdown, had an interception. It's not just the numbers, it's not just the stats. He also made some really nice passes at times, had some good touch on the ball. Something that I kind of didn't see a lot from him in previous years. A lot of times he would just kind of sling it in there as hard as he could. But now it looked like he actually had some really good touch on the ball. What stood out to me the most was his 71% completion percentage, which is outstanding because he's been known as a guy who throws like lower 60s in terms of completion percentage, and to be 71% on the season it's phenomenal for him.
Here's the thing, and I feel like most people are a part of like the meme community when it comes to sports. Like if it's not your team, you just kind of jump on a bandwagon of bashing somebody. And for several years, everybody has been bashing Cam Newton for he's wearing a towel on his head because he's sulking. Except for if you're watching the game last night, the New England Patriots were up 7-0 and Cam had a towel on his head. And it's, Cam Newton's inaccurate. But now I'm a huge Panthers fan, but no offense, he has an adequate offensive line that's giving him time, and he's able to throw accurately. That's really all it is. He's not running for his life all the time and throwing on the run or throwing off his back foot because he's getting pressured from a defensive tackle 2 seconds after the snap. On top of that, we just have to say that, Julian Edelman was supposed to be Tom Brady's guy, but I think Julian Edelman putting that little picture of Cam and him dressed up as, Batman and Superman on his like Twitter he had. And they look like guys that just have this weird superhero connection. Him and Julian Edelman connected for 8 catches for 179 yards, which is a career best for Julian Edelman. He's played his entire career with Tom Brady, and Cam Newton comes in 2 games, he has his best game of his whole life. And yeah, that right there, Cam Newton has just been playing lights out. I think it's a surprise to everybody that they're able to do so well. He's got 62 rushing touchdowns in his career. And this is going to blow some people's mind. That puts Cam Newton at 46th all time for rushing touchdowns. That means that there's only 45 running backs ahead of him. That's it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really fun to see how he's been playing. Last up, we're talking about another quarterback. This time, it's the guy that you picked. Tell us about him.
Justin Herbert. Now, this rookie quarterback was not supposed to be playing in this game. He wasn't supposed to be playing for a couple weeks, we'd assume, like if the Chargers went down a couple games, he'd come in, just kind of let Tyrod Taylor do his thing. But, and then also like a little pregame rib injury happens to Taylor, and Herbert gets the start, and he played awesome against this Chiefs team. They took the defending Super Bowl champions to overtime, and I honestly think that if Lynn doesn't have this, like, it's play calling again, I think is what is affecting some of these teams and their outcomes. I think that bad play call on 4th down and overtime might be more to do with the coaching, but Herbert, to be honest, looks like he should be the starter. I know they're not going to commit to him, but for anybody that was doubting this guy coming into the season. I'm not saying it's one game, so this might be overreaction Monday or whatever, but he looks like the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I watched him play the game, and he had some zip on the balls. He looked pretty accurate most of the time. I mean, the interception that he threw was just a bad decision, but I mean, he looked confident. He wasn't afraid to throw the ball in the face of pressure. Took a couple hits throwing the ball. Still managed to throw over 300 yards. It had a touchdown and another touchdown rushing. And yeah, I mean, the defense played a big part in holding the Chiefs to just 23 points. But I mean, just to go to overtime with Pat Mahomes and that offense is a pretty big achievement in your first career start.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to get the trust of the offense, and I mean, realistically, they shouldn't. When we review this team, they shouldn't be anywhere close to the Chiefs. And I'm sorry, Chargers fans. I know you guys are listening to this now, and you might be disagreeing with that, but be honest, the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. They just have such a good roster. I just think with all those things, like this game was against you anyways, and the fact that it was close is a huge plus, and that's the reason why Justin Herbert, more so than the Chargers, is moving up in our opinion of him. I think that them going back to Tyrod, in my opinion right now, would be a mistake. That's just how I look at these things, because next week the Chargers are going to be hosting the Carolina Panthers, who have been getting thrown on like crazy so far since the start of the season. And I think that'd be another great game for Herbert to excel in. But either way, great game for Herbert. And it's time to start dogging on some people. Let's talk about some negatives here.
Yeah, it's just some trash talking.
Let's talk about our first down, our mover that is just plummeting at this point, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. That entire team is, oof. Man, I work at a sports bar, and yesterday, after the first quarter, heads are starting to go down. After the second quarter, Vikings fans wouldn't even make eye contact with me, and I was their server. They were not happy, and they have reason not to be happy. This team is not playing well at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a team I was kind of counting on them to beat the Colts, being a division rival, but nothing was going right for them. You start off, first and foremost, Kirk Cousins. I mean, at the end of the third quarter, he had a 0.0 passer rating. He finished the game with less than 50% completion percentage, threw for 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And I mean, the running game couldn't really get going. Dalvin Cook, I mean, they went down early, so they couldn't really establish a run too much anyways. Dalvin Cook only went for 63 yards. And I mean, the defense just looked like the Colts could run on them all day, and that's basically what they did.
Yeah, and it's not even just like the defense. The offense isn't playing well either. Jonathan Taylor had his first rushing touchdown of his rookie career against them. And the biggest thing with this defense is that they just had penalties on third downs that gave the Colts first downs and gave them new life. And it was embarrassing to watch. Honestly, there were so many mistakes out there the Vikings were making. Here's the thing right now. The Vikings currently rank 29th in yards allowed per game. They're allowing over 438 yards per game, which is good for about 280 on the air and about 150 on the ground. They're allowing 35.5 points per game, which is like 30. That's 31st in the league right now. That's not good. Doesn't matter how good your offense is, which it's not right now. You can't do anything if you're allowing that many yards. After the game, Mike Zimmer was interviewed, and to say that he wasn't happy with his team is an understatement. This is a quote directly from ESPN. He said, asked if the mistakes can be fixed this year yet. He said, "I don't know. I've been telling them we can't start winning until we stop losing. No shit. And right now, we're doing things to beat ourselves with turnovers, sacks, safeties, penalties on third down on defense. I'm just not going to deal with it anymore." What do you mean you're not going to deal with it? You have to deal with it. That's literally the point. you have to deal with these things. You have to adjust. You have to fix these things. If your offensive line is not getting the protection for Cousins, then change it and get new players in there. Like, if you're getting penalties on third down, take those players out of the game and punish them. Get somebody in there that's not going to give you a penalty on third down. Like, these teams have to be smarter. The Vikings have to be better. And it's overall, because their offense is sad right now as well. They're 32nd in passing yards per game. They're 20th in rushing yards per game. And this is after they just gave a big extension to Dalvin Cook. And yeah, it doesn't matter what's happening for them at this point, because they are not in a good situation. I mean, they host Tennessee. The Texans don't seem like a big challenge, but after Tennessee, they travel to Seattle. And after Seattle, they play the Falcons, who, even though the Falcons team has been allowing a lot of points, the Falcons team is also putting up a lot of points. And then guess what? You get Green Bay again. I mean, they have a chance to go into the season right now like 1-6. Like, this is not healthy for them. They've got to fix this next week against Tennessee.
Yeah, let's hope they don't. Moving on. I guess I want to talk about an entire, not a player, but an entire offensive unit. Was the Bengals offensive line has been seriously, I mean, they weren't supposed to be great going into the season, but they've done nothing but disappoint so far. On Thursday, they, first of all, run blocking, they blocked for a whopping 2.8 yards per carry, which is just, that is terrible. And Joe Mixon couldn't get anything going, had no room to run. But the more important thing, in my opinion, is that Joe Burrow has been hit in his first 2 games. He's been hit 22 times. Okay, that's all quarterback hits. In the last 15 years, the only player who's gotten hit more in his first 2 games as a rookie is actually your boy Cam Newton. And I mean, we know what Cam Newton's style of play is, so it kind of makes sense why he would be getting hit a lot. But just to see Burrow, and speaking of which, Burrow dropping back 61 times to throw in a game, that's just ridiculous. You cannot expect this offensive line to protect him 61 dropbacks a game. And I mean, as soon as they can get the run game going, block better in the run game, that'll also allow him to have to drop back and take less hits. So I think it's kind of like a vicious cycle, but they've got to do something to fix the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now, this is literally a David Carr situation where, you know, obviously Texans were a new team back then, but it's like team is bad team gets good quarterback has no protection, out of the league in a couple years. Now, Burrow has more talent than Carr had back then. However, it doesn't matter how, in my opinion, it doesn't matter how good you are, how talented you are. If you're constantly getting hit over and over, like, you're not going to want to, you're going to be timid back there, and it's going to prevent you from developing. That right there, if this pace keeps up, that's 176 QB hits in this season. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Let's shift sides of the ball, though. Let's talk about one more negative from a team standpoint, and that is the Atlanta Falcons defense. This defense does not exist really at all.
And I mean, we're talking about a defense that in the first quarter they recovered, what was it, 3 fumbles from the Cowboys. The offense is great. They were leading by 2 scores, like going into the fourth quarter. They're up 36-24, managed to go up 39-24. And like in less than 5 minutes, they just managed to give up 2 touchdowns and then that ridiculous onside kick that leading to a field goal. I mean, absolutely no defense. It was just ridiculous.
Here's one thing real quick before we keep shitting on these Falcons. The Dallas Cowboys have practiced that onside kick. They have literally just broken and shown exactly how to recover an onside kick. Like, that guy hovered over that ball for like 5 yards.
Yeah, I mean, any one of those Falcons players jumps on the ball, then it's over. Like, I mean, I understand. Like, you're afraid to touch the ball but not secure it, and then it's a live ball and anyone can get it. But I mean, you just got to have the balls to just get the ball.
But again, we're not shitting on the Falcons special teams unit. We're shitting on their defense. And the offense played great. Falcons fans, you're probably not listening to this because we're shitting on your team, but your offense looks great out there. I mean, so far on the year, you guys have been dropping points, but your defense is holding you back, and that's clear. Giving up 78 points in 2 games is just going to continue to be disastrous for you, especially considering the fact that you still have to play the Packers, you still have to play the Saints twice, you still got to play the Chiefs, and the Bucks twice. So if they don't fix this defense quick, we can see maybe a record season for points allowed.
It's very possible.
Alrighty, who is the last person we are going to talk about here?
Oh, the last person is basically pretty much everyone. I'm talking about the injury status around the league. Big names like Jimmy G, Nick Bosa, Ray Mostert, all left the game due to injury. And that's just 3 players from the Niners. They lost 2 other players. We lost players like Saquon Barkley out for the season. Drew Lock, my favorite young quarterback, out for 2 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury, as well as his best friend Cortland Sutton is also injured again. Who else we got, Tyler?
I mean, in that same game, Jerry Jeudy kind of got hurt. You have to look over at Carolina. Christian McCaffrey just reported today. Yeah, he had ankle injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks. I mean, there was just literally injuries left and right. Injuries are inevitable. You can't prevent these things. Somebody's going to get hurt. There's 22 guys out there throwing their bodies on the line to win a game. Somebody's just going to get hurt, no matter what you do. I mean, Devontae Adams hurt his hamstring. We don't know how significant that is yet because he didn't go back in the game, but then again, they were winning, so we don't know. But Tavon Young, Malik Hooker, Brandon Sheriff for the football team. I mean, even Byron Jones. A lot of these guys got hurt. And even somebody that we were talking about on our Fantasy Friday episode, Paris Campbell got hurt as well, and we jinxed another player.
Well, I mean, Byron Jones, you had an episode about him, too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, right now, a lot of players are getting hurt. It was a weird... I just, as I was watching games while I was working yesterday, literally every time, the scoreboard scrolled across the bottom, it would stop and tell me the injury in that game.
I mean, I'm just thankful my Titans were able to walk away with no serious injury to one of their players. I think it remains to be seen if this is just some fluke statistical anomaly or if there's some deeper rooted cause to this.
Exactly. And that is going to do it for our Monday movers. Before we get on out of here, let's go ahead and break down this Monday Night Football game. We have got the Las Vegas. Hang on, wait. Are they traveling to them? Who's home? Oh, we have got the New Orleans Saints traveling to Las Vegas to play the Raiders.
First game in their new stadium.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if, Luke Skywalker can walk on in there. That's Drew Brees, if anybody doesn't know, and take down the Raiders in their Death Star. I mean, if there's ever a time to reference Star Wars, it's right now because Drew Brees is Luke Skywalker.
I agree with you. And
I just broke that down in a second, man. That's clear to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really arguing with that.
So right now, based on ESPN's Power Football Index, the Saints are predicted to win 58% of the time. What is your prediction on this game? There's going to be no Michael Thomas. Both teams are 1-0. The Saints are also going to be without Marcus Davenport. And the Raiders are going to be, they really don't have any outs yet, but there's a couple doubtful guys that we're going to see if they're playing.
Well, considering I picked the Saints to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC, I'm going to stick with them. I think, despite the injuries, I think they'll be able to secure the win pretty easily.
It'll be interesting to see this quarterback duel, but really, if turnovers start to happen, the Saints are going to run away with this game. But if the Raiders can hold onto the ball and not turn it over, this game could be a lot closer than fans think. Saints being 5.5-point favorites is fair for me. And I agree the Saints will win. Aaron, since you say the Saints are going to win, give me a score prediction.
35-27.
I like it. High scoring game, Monday Night Football. It's going to be exciting. I think there's going to be a show put on as well. I think Saints will win by 3. It'll be a field goal. And then at the very end of the game, and the Raiders will have one last drive that will come up short. And I have the Saints winning 27-24. And that is going to do it for us here on Second and Short. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to our Monday's Movers episode. Be sure to check us out on Spotify and Google Podcasts as well for your audio-only podcasts. We'll be here again on Friday for our Fantasy Fridays, talking about all the players that we like moving forward in the season and who you should maybe be picking up on your team as well if you play fantasy football. Make sure to click that subscribe button down below. We thank everybody that's been tuning in and subscribing to us. We're very close to 100 subscribers. Click that like button down below. Lets us know we're doing something right. And also leave a comment because we like interacting with you guys. And if you guys want to see us anywhere else, check us out on other social media sources such as...
Check us out on Facebook, where we be posting all of our episodes there, as well as Instagram, where I post not only our episodes, but our news updates, status reports, discussion points, things like that. And we're also on Twitter, where we try to stay active with polls. And feel free to send us a message on any platform you want, any time of the day.
Alrighty, thanks for listening, guys. Y'all have a great night.